Hey Reddit, this is a throwaway account because the story is so embarrassing, and I don't want my husband finding out I made a Reddit post about it as he follows my main. I'm in a really bad situation, and I honestly don't know what to do. My name is Lisa, I'm 24 years old, and my husband Jack is 26. We've been married for 3 years and have known each other since college. I never imagined our life would come to this point. I guess it all started with a series of misunderstandings and my own careless behavior. I apologize in advance if this is a bit over the place, but I am still so hurt and confused. You see, Jack is a bit of an introvert, and I've always been the social butterfly. I love throwing parties, hosting gatherings, and being the life of the event, while Jack prefers quiet nights at home with a good book or a movie. He's always been supportive of my social nature, even though it's not his thing. But my actions went too far, and I deeply regret what happened. Now for a bit of backstory, Jack has always been a bit of a simp. I know that word carries a lot of negative connotations, and I don't like to use it, but I can't think of a better term right now. He's always been willing to bend over backwards to please me, doing everything in his power to make our relationship work. I guess I underestimated him because of that. I thought he would never be able to do without me, that he loved me too much to ever stand up to me. Jack was the kind of guy who would surprise me with my favorite coffee in the morning, even if it meant waking up early to get it. He'd cancel his plans to spend time with me if I was feeling down, and he always put my needs before his own. He was sweet, attentive, and always eager to make me happy. In the back of my mind, I started to take all of this for granted. I didn't appreciate just how much effort he put into our relationship, and I certainly didn't think about how my behavior might be affecting him. Now, as a result of Jack's willingness to do whatever I wanted, I decided I wanted to be a stay-at-home wife, even though we didn't have any kids yet. He agreed without hesitation. Jack was always willing to do whatever it took to make me happy, and I started to take advantage of that. I began to pull away from the relationship, doing less and less around the house, and expecting Jack to pick up the slack. He would come home from a long day at work, tired and stressed, only to find that I hadn't even bothered to make dinner. And yet, he never complained. He would just roll up his sleeves and get to work, cooking, cleaning, doing whatever needed to be done. I started to see Jack as weak. He was always there, always willing to bend over backward for me. I began to resent him for it. I wanted someone strong, someone who could challenge me, not someone who would cater to my every whim. I started spending more time with my friends, going out and having fun while Jack stayed home. I would mock him behind his back, joking with my friends about how much of a simp he was. They would laugh and egg me on, telling me I deserved better, that I should find someone who could keep up with me. The more I pulled away, the more Jack tried to hold on. He would surprise me with gifts, plan romantic dinners, and try to engage me in conversations about our future. But I'd already checked out. I didn't want to be with someone who worshipped the ground I walked on. I wanted excitement, passion, and adventure. Our relationship became a cycle of Jack trying to please me and me pushing him further away. I started flirting with other guys, enjoying the attention and the thrill of being desired. Jack noticed, of course, but he never said anything. He just tried harder to make me happy, thinking that if he loved me enough, I would come back to him. Now, because of the way I treated Jack, a lot of our friends who lived close to us started to see him as less. It wasn't just the snide comments and jokes I made about him, it was the way I dismissed him in front of others, the way I rolled my eyes when he tried to contribute to a conversation, and the way I would sometimes ignore him entirely when we were out with friends. Our friends picked up on my behavior and followed my lead. They began to treat Jack with less respect too. They would make jokes at his expense, call him out for being too accommodating, and tease him about being whipped. Jack, ever the peacemaker, would laugh along, never showing any signs of hurt or anger. There were times when I could see a flicker of pain in his eyes, but he would quickly mask it with a smile. He would shrug it off, saying he was just happy to see me having a good time. I never realized how much it was hurting him, how much it was chipping away at his self-esteem and sense of worth. Jack's friends, the few he had left, started distancing themselves from him. They couldn't understand why he put up with my behavior. They would tell him he deserved better, that he needed to stand up for himself. But Jack would always defend me. He would say that I was going through a phase, that I just needed some time, and that he loved me no matter what. The more Jack defended me, the more our friends saw him as weak. They lost respect for him, and in turn, I lost respect for him too. It became a vicious cycle, one that I didn't know how to break. I started spending more time with friends who encouraged my behavior, who told me I was too good for Jack and that I should find someone who matched my energy and ambition. Jack, on the other hand, retreated further into himself. He focused on his work, throwing himself into projects and taking on extra hours. He became quieter, more reserved, and less inclined to engage in social activities. When we did go out, he would hang back, letting me take the spotlight. I was too wrapped up in my own world to notice the toll it was taking on him. Looking back, I realized how unfair I was to Jack. He deserved so much better than what I was giving him. He was a good man, a kind and loving partner, and I took him for granted. I let my own insecurities and need for validation drive a wedge between us, and I pushed away the one person who loved me unconditionally. I can still remember a lot of specific events where I undermined and disrespected Jack, and since I feel like ranting, I will tell you guys about some of them. I apologize if this gets too lengthy. It all started a few months before the neighborhood party, around the time I began pulling away from Jack. I had reconnected with some old friends from college who had recently moved into the neighborhood. They were fun, outgoing, and seemed to have the kind of life I thought I wanted, full of excitement and a carefree attitude. One Friday night, my friend Tina invited me to a girls' night out. It was supposed to be just a casual dinner, but it quickly turned into a night of bar hopping and dancing. Jack was supportive as always, encouraging me to go out and have fun. He even insisted on giving me some extra money to cover any expenses. I didn't think twice about it and accepted his offer without hesitation. That night was the first time I openly mocked Jack in front of my friends. As the drinks were flowing, so did my tongue. I told them about how Jack would do anything for me, how he was always bending over backwards to please me, and how he let me be a stay-at-home wife despite not having kids. Tina and the others laughed. They kept on egging me on, and I enjoyed the attention. The next morning, I woke up with a hangover and a nagging feeling of guilt. Jack had made me breakfast, as he always did after my nights out. He asked me how my night was, and I gave him a vague answer, not wanting to go into details. I could see the concern in his eyes, but he didn't press further. Instead, he told me he was glad I had fun and that he loved me. The guilt I had been feeling was quickly replaced by annoyance, and I brushed him off. As the weeks went by, I started going out more frequently with my friends. Jack continued to support me, even though it was clear he was growing more and more tired. Our conversations became shorter, and our interactions more strained. I could sense his disappointment, but I chose to ignore it, convincing myself that he would never leave me. One night, Tina and a few other friends came over to our house for a movie night. Jack had cooked dinner for us and then retreated to the bedroom to give us space. After a few glasses of wine, the conversation turned to relationships. Tina started talking about her boyfriend and how she wished he was as devoted as Jack. This led to more jokes and comments about how Jack was too good for me, how I had him wrapped around my finger, and how he was such a pushover. I was fueled by the alcohol and the laughter of my friends, so I joined in. I made fun of Jack's habits, his quirks, and how he would do anything to make me happy. I even joked about how I could probably tell him to jump off a cliff and he would ask me how high. The laughter that followed made me feel powerful, and yes, deep down, I knew it was wrong. Jack must have heard everything, but he never said a word about it. The next morning, he acted as if nothing had happened, though I could see the hurt in his eyes. He kissed me on the forehead, told me he loved me, and went off to work. I felt a pang of guilt, but I quickly pushed it aside. The final straw came a week before the neighborhood party. Jack and I had been invited to a barbecue at our neighbor's house. It was a warm, sunny day, and everyone was in high spirits. As usual, Jack was the perfect husband, helping out with the grill, making sure everyone had enough to eat and drink, and generally being his kind and generous self. At some point during the afternoon, a group of us started talking about relationships again. The conversation turned to how much effort our partners put into making us happy. I started bragging about how Jack did everything for me, how he catered to my every whim, and how he was the perfect husband. My friends laughed and started making jokes about how Jack was whipped, how he was too good to be true, and how I had him completely under my control. Jack was standing nearby, and I could see him listening to our conversation. Instead of feeling proud, I felt a sense of shame wash over me. But the need to impress my friends and maintain my image was stronger than my guilt. I laughed along with them and even made more jokes at Jack's expense. That night, when we got home, Jack didn't say a word. He went straight to bed and left me alone in the living room. I sat there for a long time. I felt angry, but I also felt regret. I knew I'd pushed him too far, but I didn't know how to fix it. I convinced myself that things would blow over, as they always did, and that Jack would forgive me like he always had. Little did I know that barbecue was the breaking point for Jack. The neighborhood party was also just the beginning of the end. It was the night that everything came crashing down. It was just another typical gathering, something our community does often. We live in a close-knit neighborhood, and these parties are a way for everyone to catch up, relax, and have fun. But that night, I made a terrible mistake. The neighborhood party was organized by our neighbors. Everyone was there, laughing, eating, and drinking. Jack, being the helpful guy he is, was manning the grill. I was mingling with my friends, and after a few drinks, we started talking about our husbands. The conversation naturally drifted toward Jack. My friends knew how much he doted on me, and they found it amusing. Someone mentioned how lucky I was to have a husband who would do anything for me. Feeling a bit tipsy, I laughed and started joking about how Jack was always willing to do whatever I asked, how he never said no, and how sometimes it felt like he didn't have a backbone. The laughter and jokes continued, with my friends making comments about how whipped Jack was and how nice it must be to have someone so willing to please. That's when I noticed the sudden silence. I turned around and saw Jack standing there, his face pale and expressionless. He had clearly heard everything. Jack walked over to the table where everyone was sitting. He looked at me and told me that we had to talk. I was shocked, but I agreed. Jack led me to a quieter corner of the yard. Of course, the party continued, but I could literally feel all their eyes on us. That was when Jack told me that he was done. At first, I was shocked and tried to laugh it off as a joke, but Jack wasn't smiling. He said he was tired of me disrespecting him and making everyone else disrespect him too. He said he was done and was leaving the party right now, and he didn't want me coming back to his house. He said that my things would be waiting for me on the porch, and with that, he walked off. I was stunned. I could literally see everyone staring at me with pity. They might not have heard what was said, but with the look on our faces and the way he had walked off, they could put two and two together. Of course, I followed after Jack hurriedly. He had gotten to the house before me, and he was now going through my stuff. I tried to stop him, tried to beg, cried, did whatever I could and knew would get to him, but it was like he had closed off his heart to me. He was no longer listening to me, wouldn't even hear me out. He just kept on packing my stuff and refusing to stop. He eventually finished packing while I just cried, then threw out my things and kicked me out. At first, I refused to leave, but he told me that he would call the police, and that would make things even harder for me, so I eventually left. The neighbors were staring at me, even my friends, and none of them put in an effort to approach me. They all just stared from a distance. I walked down the street, carrying what I could. Tears were streaming down my face. My mind was racing, trying to process what had just happened. I had underestimated Jack for so long, I never imagined he would have the strength to stand up to me, to take such a drastic step. I eventually ended up at a nearby park. I then called my dad to come pick me up. Thankfully, he came quickly. He was very disappointed to hear what had happened, but took me back home. I've been there for a few days now, and I don't know what to do. I've been trying to call my husband, but he won't pick up. He won't answer when I text, and I just don't know what to do. Update. Hey, Reddit. Wow, Reddit is such a toxic place. I should have known better. I know that I was wrong, guys. I don't need you all to remind me of it constantly. I came here looking for advice, not for criticism. Can you guys just stop? The hate has been overwhelming, and I regret posting here for advice. I wanted some guidance, not insults. Also, to answer some frequently asked questions, no, I don't have a job. I literally stated that in the first post, so I don't know why you guys keep asking me. Second, no, my relationship is not over. We will work things out, hopefully. And no, this is not fake. I have way better things to do than waste my time creating an account on Reddit just to make up a fake story. Yes, I know I need to find a job and start rebuilding my life, but it's hard to focus on that when my mind is consumed with thoughts of Jack. I miss him so much, and I hate that my actions have pushed him away. I wish I could take it all back and do things differently, but I know that's not possible. To everyone who has offered constructive advice, thank you. Your words have been a lifeline in this dark time. For those who just came here to criticize and insult, please understand that I'm already facing the consequences of my actions. I don't need any more negativity. I'm trying to take things one day at a time to figure out how to make amends and show Jack that I can change. It's not going to be easy, but I'm determined to do whatever it takes. If anyone has any real advice on how to navigate this, I'm all ears. Thanks for reading. Update. Hey Reddit, I honestly don't know why I still bother updating here since it's such a toxic place. But since I have nothing better to do and nowhere else to rant, why not? First of all, I am so thankful for my parents. Without them, I would literally be homeless right now. They've been my rock through all of this, and I don't know what I would do without their support. Second of all, I now realize that all my friends, including Tina, are fake. None of them reached out to me, even though they witnessed what happened. Not a text, not a call. They are horrible people, and I've blocked them. It's clear they never really cared about me. As for my husband, he has finally talked to me, and he is adamant about the divorce. I know he's going to regret this. He's going to miss me, but I'm going to give him what he wants. And when he comes running back to me, I am not going to take him back. So yeah, that's it. I'm still trying to figure out my next steps. It's hard to think about the future when everything feels so uncertain. I've been applying for jobs, but nothing has come through yet. It's discouraging, but I'm trying to stay hopeful. Alright. I still can't believe how quickly everything fell apart. One moment, I was at the top of the world, surrounded by people I thought were my friends. The next, I was standing in the middle of a park, my life in shambles. It's a lot to process, and I'm still struggling to come to terms with it. Despite everything, I'm determined to move forward. I know I've made mistakes, and I'm willing to do the work to become a better person. But it's hard not to feel bitter about how things have turned out. I gave so much to my friends and to my husband, and now I'm left with nothing. To anyone who has been supportive, thank you. Your kindness means more than you know. To those who have been harsh and judgmental, I hope you never find yourself in a situation like mine. It's easy to throw stones from the outside, but it's a lot harder to pick up the pieces when your life falls apart. For now, I'm just taking things one day at a time. I'm focusing on finding a job, saving up some money, and eventually getting my own place. It's going to be a long road, but I'm determined to get there. I don't need anyone's pity or judgment. I just need to keep moving forward. Thanks for reading. Update. Hey Reddit. Yeah, it's me again. I know it's been months since my last update, and that's because it just became too toxic for me here. I kept getting annoying, hateful, and mean direct messages. Even the comments were horrible. Sure, there were a few good ones, but mostly they were awful, so I took a break from Reddit. On the upside, I am here to give you guys a final update since things have finally worked out. Well, not exactly for me, but yeah, the divorce has been finalized. So much has happened, and I'm still living with my parents. I have a job now. It's very low paying, and my dad helped me get it. I hate it, but I have no choice. I just need to work with it for a while, save up, gather some experience, and then hopefully get a better job. As for the divorce, it was pretty quick, considering everything. It took a few months, but it was straightforward. The house belonged to my husband even before we got married, and I was a stay-at-home wife. So, I got a bit of alimony, but it was only a little. I'm just glad I got something out of it. We didn't have any debts, and since we didn't have any kids, there were no child custody payments involved. I've still tried to talk some sense into my husband's head, but he wouldn't listen, so I guess he's really done with me. The sad thing is, he seems happier without me, and I really don't know how that makes me feel. Horrible, I guess. I know I fucked up. I know what I did was horrible, and I'll never forgive myself for it. Anyway, I don't want to hang around Reddit anymore because, as I've said, it's a very toxic place. But I guess I owed you guys one last update, hence why I'm posting this. To all the people who gave me hate, please go get a life. Thanks for reading, and goodbye. Update. Hey Reddit, I know I said that was my last update, but I just had to fill you guys in on this crazy thing I found out. Crazy thing is, all my single friends who used to join me in mocking my ex-husband are now trying to get with him. And how did I find out about this? Well, I ran into someone from the neighborhood recently. The ironic thing is, back when I was with my husband, I didn't really talk to her because she and Tina had issues, and Tina didn't want us hanging out with her. Thankfully, she accepted my apology and filled me in on what had been going on in the neighborhood. She told me that my ex-husband didn't really seem eager to get with any of them, which is good because, to be honest, they are all horrible people. It's funny how things turn out. The very people who helped drive a wedge between us are now scrambling to get his attention. It's a bitter pill to swallow, and I now realize how superficial and disloyal they were, but I guess it's a lesson learned. Running into this old acquaintance was a small silver lining in the mess of my life right now. She was surprisingly understanding and didn't hold my past behavior against me. She even offered to help me out if I ever needed anything, which was a relief. It's nice to know there are still decent people out there. I've been spending my days trying to piece my life back together. The job I mentioned in my last update is still as terrible as ever, but at least it's something. I've been saving up as much as I can. I'm hoping to eventually move out of my parents' place and get my own apartment. It's tough, but I'm determined to make it work. My ex-husband and I still don't talk. I've tried reaching out a few more times, but he's completely shut me out. I can't blame him really. I was awful to him, and it's clear he's better off without me. Seeing him happier without me is a constant reminder of how badly I messed up. I'm trying to use that as motivation to be a better person, but it's not easy. I've also been reflecting a lot on my actions and how they led to this point. It's been a humbling experience, to say the least. I've started therapy, which has been helpful. My therapist is helping me work through my issues and understand why I behaved the way I did. It's a long road, but I'm committed to changing for the better. Anyway, that's the latest and last update. I'm trying to stay positive and focus on the future. It's hard, but I'm taking it one day at a time. To those of you who offered constructive advice and support, thank you. It means more than you know. And to those who continue to send hate, please, just move on. We all make mistakes, and I'm doing my best to learn from mine. Life is too short to hold on to so much negativity.